share the topic on performance measurement in public sector organizations. Okay, I think we stop here. Right. I think in the previous class we discussed on example of annual reports and business plan of executive agency in the UK as an example. And so I think we look at that the integral part of this business plan and annual reports to show their performance. I think if you look at the annual reports, okay, for companies, the expectation is you want to see their financial statements, correct? Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Correct, sir.
Yeah, because in annual reports, you want to see their performance, their financial performance or profitability, cash flow, and there are financial statement analysis for that. So I think in a similar pattern, annual reports should contain performance information. So it can be financial statements, but in the case of this DVLA, okay, the executive agency, it shows also non-financial performance targets, okay, together with the financial statements. So they publish what they're supposed to achieve during the year in the business plan, and then they also published similar groups of performance targets, okay, and in the annual reports, okay. So in that manner is I think they try to move closely with the performance reporting, external performance reporting, as in the private sector, in the companies. So it's a good practice. I think it's yet to be adopted by developing countries. Okay, for some reason. I mean, of course, it's worth to investigate, including Malaysia. Right. I think let me move on. So with that, I think now we move on to holistic performance measurement model applicable to public sector organizations. So the first are three E's, okay? Economy, efficiency, and effectiveness as a performance measurement model. Okay, in other words, so you can also call performance measurement system. In other words, to make sure that they have the management. I think when we discuss this model, it can also be a guide for the government organizations or public sector organizations for their internal use. This also can be a guide for their external use, okay, for external reporting. Okay, but I think the only thing is in government organizations, generally if they want to publish, they will also refer to the mandate, to the statutory mandate, or is there any executive requirements, okay, by the cabinet or by the parliament for them to share the performance information, right? And that's the three E's, the first model. They can also use balanced scorecards, right? Balanced scorecards, and balanced scorecard is quite common now, okay? But I think the strength of the model should be recognized because comprehensive. Okay, I think one of the major features of balanced scorecard is they can link all activities of the organizations with the performance of the organizations. And in other words, okay, can trace the resource use with the performance. Right? I think that is very good with the causal manner. Okay, that's why the issue of mapping, Okay, and then with that, of course, the main part of balanced scorecard is the KPIs. Okay, the key performance indicators. I think at this point also, as discussed in possibly in your MA topics, performance measures can be, including, but I think the key focus will be the key performance measures, KPIs. Otherwise, there are so many KPIs, it can be problematic as well. Okay. Another is the use of KPIs, key performance indicators, right? KPIs as it by itself. Of course, although KPIs can be part of balanced scorecards, the word KPI has also been used, okay, from time to time. It can also be recognized as a separate category, okay. Nevertheless, I mean, sometimes, the word balanced scorecard may not be so common. Whereas possibly the attributes of the performance measurement system or agency organizations may resemble balanced scorecards, but they may not use that. That's I think at one level. Okay, so I think generally sometimes government organizations even in the private sector they rely on the guidelines, how to move. I mean how to go about implementing the performance measurement system. Okay, but it's just that when we talk about balanced scorecard, there are theoretical foundation behind that explain why certain things need to be there. Okay, but I think some may argue that balanced scorecard may not be applicable or relevant in the current scenario. But if you look at the qualities, the attributes of balanced scorecards, even with the current nowadays with the disruptive environment, still can be applied. Okay, but just have to be revised or have to be accommodated so that changes need to be done so that it can support this disruptive environment in both in government sector as well as in the private sector. Of course, in our discussion, we focus on government. All right. So I think we discussed this as the. Hold on. Okay. Okay, relative performance measure. We talk about effectiveness, efficiency, but in this example, we have example here. Called effectiveness, quality of output. Example, percentage of cancelled services, non-compliance to standard, customer satisfaction. Okay, so you can see that customer satisfaction can be categorized under effectiveness. I think it's quite powerful, customer satisfaction survey or complaints. Okay, you can have survey, you can have complaints, okay, number of complaints. Because generally in organizations, customer satisfaction or customer complaints, the top management should directly trigger investigation. These are very key areas. Generally, I think that my understanding on customer complaints, generally it will be channeled quickly to the CEO of the organizations or the top management. So I think in government at both level, at the government level, okay, there are complaint platform, okay, and then even at the agency level, okay, including the university, I think they will take it seriously. Yeah, if you can address that in the right channel, so you can express that to the right channel, okay, that it will be responded in a time frame given. Okay, effectiveness, like quality of output, so very powerful. How well that can serve the customers. Okay, but at the same time can also achieve the objective of the organizations. Okay, that's effectiveness. Efficiency. Okay, there are different level of efficiency there. You can see later on we discuss that as well. Workforce productivity can be a category under efficiency. Time efficiency, okay, so like workforce productivity, average collection per bill collector, number of license processed per employee. These are particularly possibly relevant to counter-based services, okay, or application-based services. time efficiency, average waiting time, okay, by customers. Okay, average processing time. Okay, a lot of applications, or maybe almost all processed by customers have a processing time. Okay, generally they must have standards, and then with that standards, okay, if you look at quality management, for instance, like TQM, or what do you call it, quality standards, okay, CRAM and others. Any quality certifications, generally they will develop all these procedures, including the KPIs. Okay, economy, cost effectiveness. I think unit costs definitely. Yeah, I think in accounting we are very good in this, developing unit costs of services. Okay, it can be unit cost of process, unit cost of the output. Okay, I think with the use, depending on the costing system, it can be direct costing system, actual costing, or it can be standard costing. Okay, nowadays government are supporting like through AG or the accountants general that they're going to implement activity-based costing. Even within activity-based costing, as you possibly have covered this in the MA class, that even they have range of level of sophistications, okay, to implement activity-based costing. Of course, in the fullest extent, it can cover on activity-based management to improve, to streamline the activities so that it focus on value-added activities. By the end, I think one of the big products of this activity-based costing is basically the product cost or service cost, a unit cost. So this unit cost can be used for economy, okay, because economy generally discuss about lowest cost of providing the services. Of course, between these three, effectiveness, efficiency, and economy, so efficiency should be the main. Efficiency should be the main measure, because effectiveness and economy can be argued as element of efficiency. In other words, and particularly when you talk about not only not at the level of workforce, but on the result and output-based efficiency of the process of the system or the organizations as a whole. So, when we mention the word efficiency, it should encapsulate effectiveness and economy, right? So that's the line of discussion. Nevertheless, there are process-based or activity-based efficiency measures. This also can be relevant for the organizations. Okay, nowadays, definitely now, I think we move on to SDG. There should be SDG measures for government organizations. I think in the previous class, some of you mentioned that the government agency will focus on certain areas, a certain goal of the SDG. So with that, they must be supported by the KPIs. Okay, otherwise, if it is not measured, it will be what? If the responsibility is not measured, it will be, what is the implication? If you have a responsibility but it's not measured and it's not become scope of KPI or performance, what will happen? Class. Anyone would like to share some answer? If you have a responsibility but it's never been measured or never been in the scope of performance, so what will happen?
No accountability.
Huh?
No accountability.
No accountability. What does it mean?
Means the person can do whatever he or she wants.
Yes, I think what you say, Haris, what you're trying to say is he can ignore that responsibility, isn't it? Ignore. Agree or disagree? Oh, very quiet. Yes, yeah, I mean, that's why how important it is. So you can ignore the responsibility, okay, if it is not part of accountability or not part of performance measures. Okay, so that's how your work is. That's how you can contribute to organizations, because your accountants. Okay, I think, and then of course the fundamental skills that you have is basically developing performance measure. Traditionally, or the main one will be financial statement information, but there's also should be, and also you are trained, I think, for this program, is basically to focus on critical areas, value-added activities. So those areas must have KPIs, okay? Otherwise, it will be forgotten, it will not be addressed, it will not be managed, okay? So because organizations is you talk about hundreds of managers, we're not talking about the CEO alone. The CEO or the executive directors, they cannot manage the whole. They can give direction, okay, strategic direction, but the one who move the agency is basically all these civil servants, the line managers, the civil servants. They work in concert, okay, to support the organizations. Okay, so the key areas is that shouldn't be overused. I mean, that's why we will discuss in this class. KPIs should be used, but must be used properly. Okay, I think as an accountant, that's why you should bring the element of, it's not purely quantitative, but how you blend all this into to make sure that managers, okay, particularly I think the focus of accountants generally to manage managers, so that they can be discharge their duties properly. I mean, we can contribute. That's how one of the ways that you can contribute, or accountants can contribute into organizations. Right. So this is another example. Relative performance measures, quality and customer satisfactions. Okay, these are different dimensions. We talk about quality and customer satisfactions. Okay, there are quality awards. Total quality management itself is a policy. Is a reform by itself. But nowadays, I think it's kind of been taken for granted by management. Okay, and because quality services is only part of the organizations through their procedures. Okay, the way they do things. Okay, like quality awards still ongoing. I think at the agency level. Last time there were always award at the government level. Quality competition awards, citizens charters. These are the promise that they should give to the customers. Some they call it citizen charter, some they call it clients charter. Okay, generally if you look at a counter service, they will hang this part of their exhibition. That what they are promised to the customers. Okay, so these can be used as a dimensions in quality and customer satisfactions performance management. Right, now we move on to balance scorecards. I think I just brief through this quickly because you already covered this in different subjects. You come across this, isn't it? In what topic? In what subject, if you remember? What course you learned this balance scorecard in detail? Or is already taken out? Oh, in the MC, okay.
MC.
All right. I think in terms of the principles, still they are, being used. Customers, internal, innovation, financial. But maybe some organizations they add more or they change. But in principle, all these dimensions in perspective in balance scorecard still very relevant. Because when they develop the key result areas, so they must include. Customers definitely should be there. And then they can add with stakeholders. Okay, key stakeholders, like in the case of IUM or other government agency, they should also consider. Internal within the organization, innovation, learning always to support changes and growth of organizations, and financial. I think these are examples of IUM 2020 vision and 7 missions, right? Humanizing education. So I put there underlying the performance management framework is the balance scorecard. Because at the end, all these are the key areas that the university want to manage. Okay, so they will distribute to all the SBUs, the kuliah, the units, divisions within the university who will be responsible to achieve these areas, okay, including our faculty, our kuliah. Okay, I think these are, once it is highlighted within this, of course, how to present balanced scorecard in different ways. So these are one example. So with vision, all these key areas need to be, there must be KPI that directly link to all these areas. So how, and then I think how, if you want to imagine this, how this being applied to IIUM is, okay, in other words, it's like, you have a set of KPI, you distribute to everybody, okay? Who is the right person to be responsible for the area, the responsibility. So he or she will be assigned, and with the KPIs, then they will work to achieve that. Okay, I think in so anyone, if you remember in balanced scorecard, how to achieve the KPI, what need to be done? Anyone? In balanced scorecard, if you want to achieve the KPI, what need to be done? Anyone? They must be supported with, still remember, the scorecard. Class, one answer, please. Are you with me or not?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so
Trying to recall, sir.
Sorry?
Trying to
Tengah
recall.
ingat balik.
I'm looking
thank
at my slides, sir, trying to figure.
If you remember, the scorecard is they have, I think,
Initial goals.
strategic, yeah, and then they have description, and then they have KPIs. After KPI, they have initiative. Okay, so try to remember that because I think it's useful. Okay, for you to assess performance, management framework. Okay, so there must be person in charge. There must be KPIs, and then with that, okay, of course, before that, you must support the key result areas, or key critical areas, whatever you call it, for the organizations to achieve their objective. Okay, the one that I show for in the case of IUM, these are the key result areas. And then with that, there must be KPIs. So with KPI, there must be program. There must be what are the activities that supporting those KPIs. Then with that, then of course, what you can see in the organizations is the initiative, the programs, the activities. So every activity must have link to each KPI, and that will be linked to all these critical areas to achieve the objective. So that causal relationships. Okay, just a quick overview since you already forget. I think don't learn by heart. You must understand. Okay, because you are professional. Okay, and you are to be very learned in the future. So don't just memorize, but try to understand and how things can work. I think one way to do that is you apply, because many of you also are very, one way or another, you can work in the society, you can work in your business, right? I think many of you are running your own small business. Yes? No? Okay. Or helping someone? Yes or no?
No, sir.
No. Oh, okay. Or you maybe a member of a committee, a member of society, or any program or activities? Okay.
Yes. MSAS.
So you can use all this knowledge to help. Of course, sometimes you don't tell them, hey, you use balanced scorecard lah, to make sure that performance are better. Of course, sometimes they don't understand, particularly those who are not trained, just like accounting students. They are not familiar with all these terms. So use layman term first, and then once that, then you try to figure out. But you can manage and control. So what need to be done, and then you advise. Okay, in these key areas. Okay, then we should have KPIs so that we know what's going on. Okay, what need to be reported. So you can help use this knowledge. But the good part is, of course, those who can develop the system, okay, that can support the organizations really to achieve the objective. These are basically the fundamental principle under the balanced scorecards. Okay, but the easy way then, of course, in terms of managing it, okay, you can quickly. So, let's say in the case of this IOM, let's say I think in our kuliah definitely we are. If you talk about balanced graduates, so definitely we contribute to that. Okay, so in what way? Value creations, insan sejahtera, okay, through spiritual and value-driven education. These are, I think, been upgraded. Okay, I think definitely indirectly now. Okay, there are programs and activities are being done to support insan sejahtera. Sejahtera academic framework, I think, but now because of during the initial state of implementation, okay, but definitely kuliah is it's been brief. Kuliah members has been brief what need to be done to support sejahtera academic framework. Okay, so you can see that, and then from there, gradually they will translate that to KPIs, and they definitely need to be reported. Okay, but I think a lot of people what do you call it, involved to develop this performance framework for IIUM. Right, now we move on. Any questions so far? Am I talking to
No,
myself? Okay.
no.
What happened to my student? 88 students, it means that I lost 16 students. What happened to the 16 students? So group members, please, group leader, I think I need to know who are these 16? Are they consistently absent from the class? If you can help, otherwise I have to do manually, check one by one. Attendance, okay? Because from time to time I will do that, okay? Checking attendance. It's not, I mean, of course you use your discretion, but consistently very, big number of absent, it will be, I mean, I'm afraid that they will miss the discussion. Because another way to look at it, when I frame the final exam or exam question, it's based on, my understanding, my discussion in the class. So, what I presented, if you miss that, how are you going to be able to answer the question? Because everybody is trying. I think the line also not very strong. Okay, anyway, we continue. Right. Now, of course, once you capture the performance information, the next will be performance analysis, isn't it? Okay, the cycle will be performance analysis. You collect the performance information, but collecting performance information in the government organizations not necessarily by finance. I think finance focusing on financial information, but I think all divisions. They even have sometimes performance management division, okay, or by human resource. Sometimes they have a public, administration and finance and administration division are combined together. Okay, so not necessarily accountants can collect performance information but I think they need one group. But I think in URA they have this strategic office, okay, that basically collecting all this information. There must be one unit that is responsible to make sure that all this information can be reported in one so that relevant information can be collected. Because collection of your performance information can be both, can be internally, can be automatically generated in the system. That is the best. If all the performance information being captured by the information system. But there are also needs that they will collect manually, okay, to make sure that the information are comprehensive, right? So it can be tedious as well. But I think many came to know that there even other university they managed to digitalize all these requirements that they can collect all this data through their information system. Okay, so that is good. If I think we in our university also, I think maybe they are on that direction as well. And so that we can study all this big data and understand what's going on. Okay, so if you look at it, once we have the performance, the information collected, and then we can do performance analysis, right? Just like when you prepare financial statement, right? Financial statement ready, and then with performance financial statement, then you do financial statement analysis, correct? Which one is first, financial statement analysis or preparing financial statement? Which one comes first? Class. Preparing financial statement or financial statement analysis come first?
Preparing
Yeah, preparing financial statement, isn't it? Once the financial statement is ready, and then you present it to the board, okay, or to the managers, then the managers can use. Or you, once the performance financial statement ready, then you analyze on behalf of the management. You report to them, okay, through financial statement analysis. Okay, you just don't show what do you call it, the financial statement. They don't understand in details, but need to put in context. So ratio analysis, okay, trend analysis, okay. So similarly, in the case of non-financial information, okay, can be analyzed accordingly, okay, in a similar pattern. Okay, here we look at performance analysis, comparison over time, okay, time series, okay, what would be the trend, okay, upward, downward. Secondly, comparison between geographical areas or institutions. Okay, these are very relevant to government organizations because they have offices across the country. Okay, if you look at KKM, for instance, health hospitals, so performance of each hospital can be assessed because there are hundreds of hospitals. I'm not sure how many, but at least there must be hundreds of them, isn't it, across the states and districts. Okay, they can assess the performance for each hospitals, okay, or schools, okay. For other government agencies, okay, they have their offices in the state level, okay, then they can assess differently. So comparison between geographical areas, because I think in a way that if the office is similar in size, okay, and their responsibility or scope is similar, their performance should be comparable. Okay, their performance should be comparable, including the unit cost, the efficiency. Okay, the cost of providing the services should be comparable. So that kind of analysis can be done. Okay, if the performance information, including the financial information, can be available. Okay, comparison of actual performance against standards. Okay, I think these at least standards against the budget. I think that's why it's very good if the budget can be prepared based on standard costing, standard information, because standards should reflect optimal services. I think you can see that from time to time attempts have been made by the government, even at the government level. Okay, last time I did show to you that even for costing of the projects, under procurements now they developing PSA, what do you call it? Private, public sector competitor, isn't it? So from time to time they want to develop what is the should cost to provide the services. Okay, so that's for financial, but for non-financial, okay, if they can develop. I think this can be done also because some of the government services, they are very technical. Okay, technical services like chemistry department, for instance. Okay, if pharmaceutical, okay, these are very technical areas, engineering areas. Okay, so they can also, even as certain activities they have world standards, okay, or global standard, they can use that, or they can benchmark against their counterparties in the counterparts in different countries providing similar services. So these are options for them to develop the standards. And then with that, they can compare with the actual. So then you can see, how optimality, how to achieve optimal use of public resources. I think these are one of the questions last time, isn't it? From the beginning of the semester, one of you did ask how to, to assess that, to assess the performance of government, so that for them to be efficient and others. These are initiatives that can be undertaken for government organizations for them to be close to optimal use of public resources. Okay. Comparison of actual performance against target performance, right? Comparison with similar organizations. Okay, benchmarking can only, as I mentioned, can use benchmarking. They can also, they may not be able to compare directly to the private sector, but I think there is a term as well. I think in the case of if they can provide services as good as by the private sector, because government, one thing we can remember is they don't have profit element. Okay, they only have costs. Okay, so if they charge to customers, it's basically at least the maximum they can go is cost recovery. They cannot charge profits because they are not profit entities. Okay, so in that sense they have advantage if they are very efficient. Okay, interdepartmental comparison, okay, within organizations. I think just a quick. I think in performance analysis, comparison is a key. Yeah, either you compare. I think in the private sector, if you compare any government, any companies of any business, you always need to compare with the competitors. Okay, that's the basic to understand are they doing well or not. But for government, it's quite limited. But at least they have these options over time, similar organizations. Okay. And within the organization as well, because they are providing services across the country, they can compare performance of different departments. Right, accountability and governance, internal performance reporting as part of accountability, a report between ministers and prime ministers at one level, reports between parent ministries and agencies. So, right, report between parent ministries and agencies. Who report to who? Parent ministry report to agencies or agencies report to parent ministry? Class? Parent ministry report to agencies or agencies report to parent ministry?
Agency
Yeah.
to ministry.
Agency report to parent ministry. A, parent ministry, okay, agency, parent ministry report to agency A. B, agency report to parent ministry. A or B?
B.
B.
Should be B, yeah. Okay, right. So, okay, I think that generally performance information, the reporting is to report to hire someone higher, because they are monitoring. Okay, the monitoring normally the superior is monitoring. Okay, we also, I think it's part of agency issue. Report between parent ministries and agencies, report to the treasury, and because government agency they receive budget, they also have to report the performance as required to the treasury. Okay, can be in terms of frequency, can be monthly report, quarterly report. Okay, I think for expenditures it's monthly report, but for non-financial information, it can be quarterly. Okay, sometimes performance non-financial may take some time. Okay, for them to collect. But for ministry, sometimes only once a year. This also being done to report. Okay. But of course, ideally, okay, there must be monitored. Now people use online. If you talk about big data, you talk about real time. Okay, so this information should be, the fact that I think that this is a good demonstration by the Ministry of Health when Tan Sri Hisham they presenting this COVID-related matrices. Okay. So that is, you can see that how well they work together. Okay, the support that they have. But the coordination, I think the performance information they collect from the district to the states, from the states to the, and then centralized to the HQ, okay, and then they can report daily, okay. I think they are, if I'm not mistaken, for the daily reporting, the benchmark, the threshold time is at the mid noon, isn't it? By mid noon, by the noon for that day, they should that's the latest deadline they have, and then for the daily reporting. Okay, but what is good is basically can be done daily, okay, for national interest. So you can see that. In other words, government agencies, they have that capabilities to updates on the daily basis. Okay, it's possible. But I think definitely selective performance information cannot be all, because sometimes it's time consuming as well to prepare this information. Ranking, okay, with the performance information, you can do ranking, but ranking normally with the common performance measures. League tables, okay, local government star ratings. I think another one is financial management scores, accountability index, accountability index by the National Audit Department. That's also being used as a benchmark. Okay, and definitely annual reports. So performance reporting, performance information can be reported through annual reports. But I think you can check those agencies or ministries that under for your assignment, right? Please check them. How they publish these KPIs, to what extent. You can evaluate how they basically share performance information. Okay. All right, for external performance reporting, okay, through annual reports can be done, ranking, league tables. So you can see example of external performance reporting. This one is not only by the government, but by the third party. So SDG rankings, QS World, I mean for this university. But I think for the world, I think for the government, you can see that government being ranked economically, ease of use of business, and then another ranking possibly what they call transparency index, okay, corruption. This also there is, but that one is not at agency level. These are at the government level, where they compare between government. Okay, so definitely the relevant agency can help the government to achieve those ranks. But here in my example, it's for the universities. Okay, the Times World Ranking, Myra and Setara for Malaysian. I think for Malaysian, for funding purposes, this Myra and Setara is very important. Okay, and as well local government star rating. Okay, as an example. Which for your view, which one is most stronger in terms of accountability? External performance reporting or internal performance reporting? Which one will basically stronger in accountability terms? Anyone? In your opinion? Okay, agency report to paramilitary, yes. Is internal reporting or external reporting? Which one will give a stronger accountability, as accountability mechanism?
External.
External, okay. No, it's a survey, yeah. Because government they use mainly internal, okay. Performance information. I think all the details generally between agencies and parent ministry, and then to cabinet. Okay, but not all been released to the public, right? So there's also a very strong accountability, but another option is sharing to the public. Okay, as we observe, okay, through the executive agency annual report in the UK. Okay, to certain there's some limits, some numbers. Okay, of course these are key result areas. They share to the public. Okay, their level of achievement. So my question to you is, which one will give a stronger accountability mechanism? Few say external, internal, or both? The only option you don't have is don't care. That one you cannot. Huh?
External.
External.
Okay. All right. I consider that you speak on behalf of others. Okay. So external reporting. Yeah. Okay. The only thing is reporting to external is another dimension of that. Of course, for the because I think external parties, the NGOs, I think they can provide measures to the government or interested communities. Okay. Generally, I think they will focus on, that's why stakeholders, if you look at stakeholder perspective, generally by stakeholder, okay, they form NGO and then to make their voice heard. I think that is quite what do you call it, consistent in Malaysia and internationally. Okay, if you want to speak to the government, generally the government, they want to look at numbers. Okay, they cannot respond to one person request because they are handling 30 million people. You cannot just listen to one person, isn't it? So they have to listen to majority. So that's why for them to be able to get the numbers, okay, they work to make their voice heard is through NGOs. Okay, I think in Malaysia, that's why in the US, I think definitely in Malaysia, there are a lot of lobbyist groups, NGOs as lobbyist groups. Okay, to lobby, okay, to lobby their interested areas, okay, or their. I think in the US, including we have Islamic care, they call it. So to highlight the interests of the Muslims, okay, they have NGO working closely with the Congress, okay. So in Malaysia, I think there are so many, okay, interested parties. I think that's the best way. Even at the community level, if you want to talk to your representative, okay, I think you work through your community societies, through JKK and others. Okay, very powerful. But nowadays, of course, we cannot discount. It's not that we cannot discount, but it's a high impact. Okay, through the media platform. But the only thing in media platform may not have a concerted voice. That's another issue. Okay, just an overall pressure to the government. Okay, but anyway, the government are responding as well. Right, challenges of performance measurement in public sector organizations. I think we know the benefits and we know the strengths and what need to be done. We also have to discuss on the challenges. Insufficient information, performance data not collected, source of performance data are from multiple sources, and difficult to obtain performance data on time. Okay, it can be challenging. Less quantifiable objective, PSO objective, difficult to measure. Objective benefits and welfare of the public, improve the standard of living, quality of health and education. Okay, so it is subjective sometimes. Okay, but how to find the relevant proxy measures? I think in the case of government, they can develop proxy measures, okay, to quantify, but must be accepted by the stakeholders. So there must be what do you call it? Introduction, explanation, acceptance. Okay, with the KPIs. Even within the organizations, if you want to introduce new KPIs, okay, there are always stages of awareness. Okay, from awareness, there'll be what do you call it, engagement, okay, with the stakeholders before they move to make it part of our performance assessment. Okay, so there must be process. If it is rejected, then it can create. I think we discussed that later. Challenges in infrastructure, lack of relevant expertise among civil servants about the PMS, underutilization of managerial accounting information system. Okay, it's possible. The absence of relevant institutional incentive to promote effectiveness and efficiency. Okay, so I think another, in the simple way to translate that is basically, at the end, the performance measure must be part of performance assessment of the top management, the middle level management, as well as the civil servant. Okay, but shouldn't be overdue. Okay, you can use KPI, but do not overdo. It can create problems as well. Okay, I think just like giving medicine, isn't it? Give medicine is good, but do not overdose. If you overdose, then it creates problems. I think similarly, okay, the use of this quantification techniques, okay, but it must be done with harmony, okay, with the system, with the people, okay. cannot be overdosed. Otherwise, it can create a lot of things which is bad to the organization. PMS adopted but not useful for strategic purposes. No clear linkage between KPIs of agency and outcome. Agency activity have only indirect impact or results to the outcomes. For instance, Department of Environment to improve air and water quality. Okay, for instance, air. Okay, air quality. So multiple agencies involved and parties. Okay, I think government department alone cannot provide those services. Okay, they must work together with the stakeholders. Then impact can happen, right? So that's why I think this cooperation and collaborations between government and the community and the citizens overall, then they can work. I think in the case of COVID, basically you can see not only the government agency work hard, but the communities also have to work hard. But nowadays, because of certain level of complacent, now the numbers of COVID cases are increasing. Okay, so it become alarming again. I don't know what is the reason. I think still, but there are some message being circulated. But that's how important it is. But government they can do with a certain limit, but the rest also need cooperation with the stakeholders. Influence of government in ensuring achievement of government policy. Government is a sole factor in ensuring any achievement of the PSO objective. Interdependency of various government organizations to address a policy problem, okay, can pose coordination challenges. I think highlight the challenges. Absence of market for the outputs, absence of market price for services, wide use of non-financial measures, then financial measures, okay. Absence of market, so that's why I think you can discuss that as a separate topic as well. Scope, responsibilities, and accountability structure are not clear, okay. So scope of responsibilities are who should be responsible for what. Okay, when it is not clear, then it will create problems because there are redundancies. Okay, can be point fingers. Okay, example, reducing road accidents. These are multiple agencies. 14 agencies addressing road accidents. Okay, who should be? So that must be carefully discussed and then carefully being what do you call it? Who is responsible to? But I think one way to another that to address this problem is they have normally one policy. They have a secretariat. Where all the secretariats they have all agencies basically representing their part, and then from there I think coordination can happen through the secretariats. Okay, I think for instance the development. So there are 30 or 50 agencies involved in the development of land development, for instance. So how to streamline and make it faster. So all these agencies they call it one-stop center. Okay, from that coordination can take place. Okay, and from there they can improve these redundancies problems. Tangible result of activities are not expected to materialize for years, and no measures of outcome may not be appropriate. Okay, I think sometimes they have to recognize not all measures can be achieved within 1 year. If it is over the years, then they have to accommodate that. Okay, maybe the time frame. They may have KPI, but the time frame not 1 year, can be achieved within 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. I think this is similar to the private sector, where I think not only annual report they look at EBITDA, earning before interest, tax, depreciation, and others, and also they use cumulative EBITDA. Okay, try to minimize short-termism influence in decision making by the top management. Other factors, economic trend, demography, environment should be considered. Dysfunctional behavior. Okay, that's why I think these are dysfunctional behavior generated by PMS. Basically, this discussion to highlight, to avoid overdose use of PMS. Okay, right. Dysfunctional behavior means these are behavior by the managers, because the KPIs is they have KPI holders. So these KPI holders, they are responsible, they are accountable to achieve those KPIs. So that's why they respond to this. Okay, how to manage, just like yourself, isn't it? When you are given assignment, okay, you manage the assignment, isn't it? Okay, so either you want to, but because at the end you need to submit your assignment. Okay, so there are two, but actually the fundamental use for assignment is for you to learn. Okay, for learning purposes, not for compliance. Okay, compliance means to submit for you to get the grades, and then with that grade I can assess, okay, what grade you should get for the final. But the fundamental of that is basically doing the process of doing the assignment is you learn, the learning, okay. But of course, you comply. There are various ways of compliance. Okay, one, of course, the best is you learn, understand, okay, all the concept, the theories, and the practice behind, and then for you to get good knowledge, okay, to improve your competency. But there are also instances that students try to comply only. Okay, that's why plagiarism happen, isn't it? I think worst scenario, of course, you're not doing it, but worst scenario, there are plagiarism cases. Okay, recently just for sharing, because I'm the deputy dean of student affairs. Okay, one student got okay, so basically, I think because of plagiarism, so got caught and cases. I think it's already finalized. Okay, the judgment. Why it's submission? Okay, just for compliance purposes. Okay, but that is not the aim of doing the, taking the education or assign for you to do all these works, right? That is misbehavior. Okay, so managers also misbehavior when they face with this achieving the KPIs. So the first one is tunnel vision, concentration on areas included in the performance measure scheme, exclude other important areas. Okay, so they just focus on their KPIs, but organizations can be very dynamic. Changes can happen, and important factors are happening. So they must consider in their decision making. But they can exclude because important for them is to achieve their KPIs. But KPIs can be outdated. Okay, so tunnel vision is a form of misbehavior. Sub-optimization, pursued by managers of their own narrow objective at the expense of strategic goals. Okay, this particularly true when the KPIs, the local KPI or the manager's KPI, are not properly linked with the strategic goals of organizations. Okay, because they are assigned with the KPIs, they just achieve their KPIs. Okay, and then if there is need to contribute to the organization as a whole, because they are not in the purview of their KPIs, they may be able to ignore. Myopia, concentrate on short-term issues versus long-term factors. Okay, these are time dimension of the performance measure, because generally performance measure is in scale to 1 year, one year time frame, so it can create myopia, short-termism. Because sometimes there are issues need to be taken, but it will take longer than the to achieve taking a longer time than 1 year. But whereas KPI is focusing on 1 year, so all these need to be addressed. So, but for the managers focusing only for the achieving their short-term KPIs, these are myopia. Convergence, emphasis on not being exposed as outlier on any of the performance measures. Avoid detailed scrutiny in the case of management exception. In other words, they focus on KPIs. Okay, if not achieving KPIs will be subjected to scrutiny. Yeah, if you don't achieve a KPI, because let's say the benchmark of KPI is 90%. Okay, let's say in the case of budget, I think the variance they allow is 5% or 10%. Below 10%, okay, so they must explain. Okay, so it being subjected to supply. That's why they, basically focusing all the effort to achieve the KPIs. Ossification, a disinclination to experiment with new and innovative methods. Okay, whereas these innovative methods will improve the performance of the organization. But since KPIs do not require that, they can ignore these opportunities. Gaming, altering behavior so as to obtain strategic advantage, setting modest targets. Right? I think that's a normal behavior of human being. We try to achieve good performance with the easy targets. Okay, it can be easy measure, it can be easy targets. Okay, both. Okay, I think I posed this question to you on which one will you prefer, attendance or CGPA? Yeah. Okay, it's quite normal. I mean, as human being, if you can choose attendance as your performance target, you will choose, right? But of course, that's why the relationship between top management and line managers, parent ministry and the agency, try to make sure that the performance targets and performance measures are relevant, are good enough to achieve the objective of organizations. Mispresentation, including fraud, creative accounting. Okay, that can also result through achieving KPIs, because at the end they have to achieve KPIs for them to be able to be seen as performing. Okay, so that's why I think performance measurement should consider these factors so that for the use of measures shouldn't be overdosed, okay, then create problems, okay. Critique and evaluations of the development of PM in PSO. This is a general discussion, but I think you can take this note because this is what's happening. Often public sector managers pursue their own financially oriented PM and pay symbolic attention to multi-dimensional model imposed PM. This one particularly for imposed PM. Strategic PM not used for operating level of decision making, while the financially oriented still largely in use. Okay, so that's why the communication about the KPIs that is non-financial should be thoroughly being discussed. Otherwise, the managers will use because at the end they will try to complete finish of their budget. PM is not adopted as technical efficiency approach for increasing the productivity of public services. PM adopted to meet external stakeholders' expectations as form of window dressing. Okay, I think we discussed that. PM was used to comply with external demand of accountability, okay, that can promote compliance rather than substantive change in the organizations. If you look at, but what is important is substantive change, good services, okay, rather than just to comply. Okay, so in other words, what they submit to their parent ministry is the same measure they use for their internal management. Okay, PM info was not used to improve client-related performance. Managers use one set of performance to satisfy external scrutiny. The same managers internally adopt more realistic measures for internal performance assessment. Okay, this is also possible. Okay, but at the end is okay, to assess what level they can achieve their objective. Okay, so these are dimensions that are discussed. Okay. Right, I think it seems that I have to stop here because how many slides still? Another 6-7 slides. We have 20 minutes left. Should I continue? Oh, I think I just continue because these are some of it already covered. Okay. Right, performance measure initiative, Malaysian government, right, financial management reforms. Just to give you, I think, of course, I mean, the discussion at this point, it's blending, but I just try to highlight specific techniques or initiative. Okay, outcome-based budgeting, I think we discussed, modified budgeting, accrual accounting, activity-based costing, internal auditing system, and accountability index. I think the last one, this also will be discussed when we discuss auditing. Major reforms, TQM, okay, ISO, right? I think in IUM also we have ISO. ICT in government, my results, National Blue Ocean Strategy, GTP, okay, Star Rating Index. Right, result-based performance management, okay, from MBS, and then we with OBB, accrual accounting and accountability index, right? Will be discussed later. Okay, monitoring and evaluations. Right, I think I just want to highlight the system here. They have for government, they call it My Results, performance management system. Okay, let me share. Right, so there are performance system, but of course internally these are definitely used by multiple agencies possibly. Of course we cannot access the detail. At least we know that there is a specific website for this. I think this one to support, if I'm not mistaken, outcome-based budgeting. Okay, the questions. Okay, you can read that. Of course, you cannot log in because these are, yeah, it is to support OBB outcome-based budgeting, right? So my result, the website. Okay, you can have a look, right? And you can have a look. Let me another. Okay, with that also. Okay, the provider is Sentry Software. These are the supplier providing the the services, the support service for these my results. Okay, let me share also. Just 1 minute. Okay. Yep. These are the supplier providing my result support. Okay, and management team. It's interesting. Okay, so that's why procurement is good. I think the CEO is Dr. Zainul Arifin Harun. He's my batch, same batch with me. Now the director and CEO of the IT company. Okay, I think yeah. So our alumni, Kuala Economics alumni, right? So you can get the jobs from government procurements. Right, let me finish. Okay, another. Okay, right. Key just overall discussions in this for this initiative. Quality and completeness of performance information. No enforcement mechanism to ensure the ministry submit the data when required. No mechanism to verify and validate the quality of data submitted, and the volume of data generated risks overwhelming staff instead of obscuring potentially meaningful findings. I think this can be addressed through because now the information is through IT system, okay, and I think the government possibly they are moving towards that direction because they use blockchain. Okay, now gradually government adopting blockchain. Even at our university, certain software they try to use blockchain. So from there, I think will improve the validity of the information. Okay, so then I think will improve the quality of performance information. Capacity to use performance information to analyze performance information for appropriate policy responses, big data analysis capability, use of performance dashboard, staff capacity. I think these all can be addressed through training, and also close engagement with the suppliers. Okay, tools to encourage greater focus on performance. Reward system are not well aligned. These are possibly need a clear link. That's why if for the KPIs for outcome-based budgeting, so I think this the fact that with outcome-based budgeting they get involved all parties, okay, the ministers, and then we call it the service commission, okay, not only the treasury. I think all of them work together. I think this time possibly the KPIs will receive the due attention, and definitely because it will get good support from the Prime Minister, and definitely from from the narrative, okay, from the discussion, these are the mechanism used. And lastly, performance information may not be perceived by senior policymakers or Parliament as sufficiently valuable to inform the decision budget. Okay, so these are, but I think the critical issue is, I think performance information should be made available. Okay, once they have that, and then if they can show that this performance information is reliable and valid, definitely this information can be used. And I think the members of parliament, they always rely on their support staff, isn't it? At the ministry, okay, their research groups, okay, all these can provide support. Okay, the way forward, encourage timely and accurate reporting on performance by ministries. Okay, and when and where it is most relevant to the policy decisions. Develop the technical capacity to evaluate performance information, analyzing big data, performance dashboard. Okay, improve demand for performance information by linking it to individual and institutional recognition reward system. I think these are maybe as we speak, they're also doing it to update what's happening in the organizations. I think before they be able to do that, they must make sure that the performance information system must be good and ready, okay, for them to roll out, okay, the system. Otherwise, I think they can start with the performance information for learning purposes, okay, before they move to a stronger level of accountability where it become KPIs, where they need to be managed and to be achieved. So these are stages of performance information development. All right, any questions? With that, I will end. Okay, before we finish, maybe I can take 1 or 2 questions. All right, 86 students. Oh, okay, so very few. Can I get cooperation by the leader of the group, can you check your team members and if they come to classes? Leaders of the group, can you help me? Anyone? Are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, we're still here.
Okay, can group member or leaders, can you basically what do you call it? Because to check your team member, are they coming to class or not? I mean, to assist, because I have 100 students. For me to follow through all is quite cumbersome when I giving the what do you call it? The lecture. Is that possible? Or is it's very difficult?
Yes, sir. Sure.
All right, thank you. Thank you. I think that's all I need. All right, so with that, I will end this with wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.